Dear students, we have completed the first part named His First Flight of the third chapter, Two Stories About Flying. I hope you all have understood the chapter very well now. So now it's time to discuss the question answers. So let's discuss the first question of the chapter part 1, His First Flight. The first question says, why was the young seagull afraid to fly? Do you think all young birds are afraid to make their first flight, or some birds more timid than others? Do you think a human baby also finds it a challenge to take its first steps? Well, this question have three parts, so let's discuss one by one. The first part says, why was the young seagull afraid to fly? Well, I believe that challenges make you stronger and let you face your fear in a better way. The young seagull was also having a challenge in front of him, and that challenge was to make his first flight. And he was really afraid to fly because he had decided that his wings would not support, and he was so afraid by seeing the vast open wide sea in front of him. And he saw that his two brothers and sister were able to manage their first flight in their first attempt, but he couldn't gather the courage. That's why he was so afraid, because he have to make his first flight, and it was a really big challenge in front of him. That's why he was afraid. Do you think, now the second part, do you think all young birds are afraid to make their first flight, or some birds more timid? Timid here means more soft, more afraid, डरे हुए, सहमे हुए होते हैं, नाजुक होते हैं. Well, I think that most of the young birds must be afraid to make their first flights, but of course there are exceptions, and they are always there, as they might not find it much challenging. And like young seagulls, two brothers and sister, they were managed to fly in their first attempt only. So exceptions are always there. And the third part, similarly, I think a human baby would also find it a challenge to take their first step. Some small kid, some kid, when they are only 6 months or 1 year, they start walking. Some walk, some take time. They start walking in 1.5 years or 2 years. Exceptions are everywhere. So this was the answer, I think. Second question is, the sight of the food maddened him. What does this suggest? What compelled the young seagull to finally fly? Well, the young seagull was very hungry. He didn't have anything to eat for the last 24 hours. His parents did not give him anything because they were angry with him. And it was this hunger that ultimately or finally compelled and encouraged him to fly. How did that happen? When he saw his mother tearing at a piece of fish that lay at her feet, his hunger intensified, means increased. He cried and begged her to give him some food, but his mother did not give him any food. But when he saw that his mother was flying towards him with food in her beak, he screamed with joy. And being able to and anticipation, excitement, he started screaming with joy. However, the mother stopped in a midway, not being able to resist his hunger any longer. The young seagull was not able to resist means to control his anger any longer. What did he do? He dived at the food in her mother's beak. And that moment when he died, his hunger overpowered his fear of the great expanse of sea beneath that cliff. His hunger overpowered his fear, and finally this dive was followed by the seagull's first flight. And he dived because his fear was overpowered by his hunger, and he dived. And then we know that this dive only managed to help him to take his first flight. Now the third question, they were beckoning to him, calling shrilly. What did the seagull's father and mother threaten him and cajole him to fly? The young seagull, the young seagull was afraid to fly, even when he saw his parents teaching and helping his brothers and sisters to fly, making them perfect, in the art of flying. They were telling them to dive, how to fly high, how to catch the fish, everything he was seeing, but he still couldn't gather enough courage to make that first flight. That is why his father and mother were scolding and taunting him of his cowardice for not showing the bravery. They were scolding him and taunting him. They threatened to let him starve on the ledge if he did not fly. They even threatened, why did they, that they will not give him any food. Why did they do so? They did so because they wanted him to overpower his fear and take his flight. They wanted him to fly like his two brothers and sister. No parents in the world want that any of their child would remain weak, you know would become coward. So they also did not want that. That's why they did so. So this next two question is, you don't have to do in the fair notebooks. It is the question of discussion. We will discuss when we will meet in personal. So this we have discussed the question answers also. So that's it. Thank you.